Good evening, everyone. My name is Bunny Schiller, and tonight I will be going over my functional behavior assessment with clinical recommendations PowerPoint with you. For the purposes of this, for the purposes of this PowerPoint and presentation, and for the purposes of privacy, I will be referring to my client only as CB tonight. CB is a Black male student who prefers the pronouns he, him, and his. At the date of evaluation, he was 9 years old. The evaluation was conducted at his school, the ABC School for Students with Autism. For some background and history on CB, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at 3.5 years old. The ADAS-2 also indicated a high level of autism-related symptoms. He currently is in a self-contained classroom for students diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. He also receives speech therapy and sensory integration therapy at school. It is reported that he has a textbook, but that it is not often used. And the textbook is the Picture Exchange Communication System. CB has a history of aggression at home. However, this is particularly only with his mother. He recently has began aggressing to his teachers at school. This corresponds to a recent relocation that he has had about 6 months ago. He exhibits self-injurious behavior both at home and at school, it is reported. For the direct assessment, for the indirect assessment, we conducted 2 assessments, the functional assessment interview, or the FAI, and then also the functional analysis screening tool, or the FAS. For both the FAI and the FAS, we have the same respondent and informant. For the purposes of privacy and for this PowerPoint, this respondent will be referred to as LA. LA is currently an instructor at the ABC School for Students with Autism, where CB is currently a student. She has known CB for approximately 3 years, has worked as his classroom teacher, and is also assigned to parent train at home with his parents 1 day a week for the past 2 years. She has interacted with CB through, across all school settings. This includes academic, his leisure activities, his self-care objectives, and also in meals such as lunchtime. As mentioned previously, the respondent for the FAI was LA. In this interview with LA, she reported that he has very limited vocabulary. And once again, it was reported that he does have a textbook, but that he does not always have it with him. Therefore, he doesn't use it consistently. So it is hard to gauge how fluently he will use the textbook. The targeted behavior identified through this assessment was self-injurious behavior. This self-injurious behavior is reported to occur with and without vocalizations. Now, these vocalizations are generally screaming or loud crying. Once again, he has a limited vocabulary, so they are not often phrases or words. LA reports that this is pervasive throughout the day, and she does not see a predictable sequence or chain for this behavior. The definition for self-injurious behavior as it relates to CB is any instance of CB contacting his own body in a way that leaves a visible mark, such as redness of the skin, a scratch or a cut to any part of his body, or bite marks left on his skin. Some examples would include hitting himself in the head, banging his head on furniture or a wall, or biting any part of his own body. Now, some non-examples of this would include accidentally bumping into furniture, accidentally hitting himself, or hitting others or aggressing towards others, as this is not part of the target behavior at this time. Once again, LA was the informant for the functional analysis screening tool. LA reports through the FAST that we will most likely see occurrences of SIB from CB when he is not receiving attention, in instances where the teacher may be helping another student do an independent activity, and during his own independent activities, if he is not being attended to. The current strategies are redirection, interruption of the targeted behavior, or incompatible behavior. So based on the FAST scoring, the possible function of this target behavior is social, for maintained by attention, or getting preferred items. Next, we moved on to the direct assessment, which is direct observation of CB. Through the direct observation of CB, we collected ABC data. This is antecedent, behavior, and consequence data. We collected this across 3 days through different activities and different tasks at different times of the day. This was conducted from June 13th to June 17th, 2022. The 3 days were Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of that week. As you can see, this is the antecedent analysis. The most common antecedents were the teacher not attending to CB or the teacher helping other students. So prior to each of the 7 occurrences of SIB, 3 occurrences occurred while the teacher was helping other students, while 4 occurred while the teacher was otherwise engaged in a different activity or just simply did not attend to CB. It's important to note, as evidenced by the antecedent graph, that there were no occurrences of SIB if the teacher was instructing the whole class, if the teacher was watching CB, or if the teacher was attending to CB. Now we look at the consequences. Based on the consequence graph, you can see the 2 most common consequences was the teacher walking over to CB and engaging with him, and the teacher verbally reminding CB of what he should be doing. There was just 1 occurrence of the teacher not attending to CB. 1 consequence of the teacher not occurring to CB when he engaged in the behavior. As discussed, 4 instances occurred while the teacher walked over to CB, and 2 instances occurred with the teacher verbally reprimanding him. Now we discuss the scatter plot. The scatter plot gives us more information based on the time of day and the activity that is going on. So as you can see through the scatter plot graph, the time period with the most occurrences was 2 to 2:30. This is during independent writing activity, where there were 4 occurrences during this period of time. All right. Sorry, I skipped ahead there for a minute. The observation period between 9 and 9:40, we saw 2 occurrences of the target behavior. During this activity time, there was an independent math activity, and CB was playing with blocks during some free time. The third observation period was from 12 to 12:30, and this was during lunch in the cafeteria, where we saw just 1 occurrence of the target behavior. Based on the observational data and the indirect assessment data, through speaking to the teachers and the parents, the functional hypothesis is teacher attention within the task. You can see this by looking at the data in both the antecedent and the consequent graphs. The targeted behavior occurs when the teacher is not attending to CB. Once an instance of SIB occurs, the teacher immediately attends to CB. This immediate attention acts as a reinforcer, acts as reinforcement for the self-injurious behavior. An example of this is, let's say CB is completing an independent math activity. The teacher begins to help another student. That would be the antecedent. CB engages in SIB. That's the behavior. And then the teacher goes over to CB and asks him if he needs help with the work. That's the consequence. That is, CB is now gaining attention, which acts as the reinforcement. There are many social there's a lot of social significance of functionally replacing this behavior for CB. This will have positive, long-lasting effects for CB. We will see this not only personally and academically, but also socially. Using the applied research-based interventions, we will see that this should provide CB with opportunities to generalize and maintain the replacement behavior strategy over time. There are 3 strategies that we will discuss, interventions that we will discuss next: antecedent intervention, an alternative behavior intervention, and a consequential intervention. The first is the antecedent intervention. The antecedent intervention we are recommending. The antecedent intervention we are recommending is non-contingent reinforcement. This is reinforcement with no response contingency attached. Wallace et al. 2012 discusses 2 different types of NCR, or non-contingent reinforcement. There is NCR with extension and NCR without extension. The recommended schedule of NCR for CB is going to be NCR without extinction. This is how NCR without extinction is going to look. NCR the NCR provided will be attention. We will start this as a dense schedule of reinforcement and slowly thin the schedule. So this will start with the teacher providing attention on a fixed schedule. And again, this is not contingent on any response behavior. So the timer will be set. We'll begin with 5-minute increments. Every 5 minutes, the teacher will go over to CB's desk, provide praise and/or social attention. We will slowly thin this schedule until CB is receiving attention only at the end of a period and then intermittently throughout the day. For the alternative behavior intervention, we are recommending functional communication training, or FCT. The recommended topography for this is the Picture Exchange Communication System, or the PECS, because this is something that CB already has in his environment. This is an intervention that is widely used to help teach manned imitations to students with autism. The alternative response to SIB will be enabling CB to get the teacher's attention by using the PECS book to demand for help. So initially, because CB does not consistently carry the textbook with him. We will set up his environment to ensure he is always has access to his textbook. We will implement this with the most to least prompting strategy. Now, it's important to note that prior approval from both CB and his guardian are required in order to implement physical prompting, which we will be sure to get. As each criterion level is met, we will move to the next least intrusive prompt until CB is using his textbook autonomously. And finally, the consequential intervention. This will be differential reinforcement of alternative behavior without extinction. Athens et al. Suggests DRA without extinction in cases such as self-injurious behavior, as we see in CB. This is a concurrent schedule of reinforcement. Differential schedule of alternative behavior without extinction will look like this is how it will look. Instances of no self-injurious behavior will be reinforced with a highly preferred item. This will be the teacher going over to CB and providing a few minutes of positive attention. For the concurrent schedule of reinforcement, instances of self-injurious behavior will be reinforced with a lower preferred item. For this reinforcement, the teacher would simply say, hi, maybe glance over and wave at CB, or simply just a wave or a one-word response. For generalization and maintenance, for generalization, we want to ensure that CB is asking for help in school, but with other teachers. Examples would be the art teacher, the gym teacher. That helps us to ensure that he's generalizing this new topography. Asking for help while he's at home with his mother, that would also be generalization. For maintenance strategies, we should include regular use of CB asking for help using his textbook in the natural setting and environment. We should also ensure for maintenance strategies that reinforcement is occurring naturally through him getting the attention or help he is demanding for. And finally, it is essential for all those who will be working with CB, staff, parents, guardians, everybody involved in the care of CB should be trained in each procedure and should be aware of all of the intervention strategies. For the staff, there should be professional development, and for the parents, there should be parent training. One method of ensuring that everybody is on the same page with the procedures is to do this with role playing for each intervention, so everybody could see exactly how each intervention should be run. And as with all of our clients, it is important for all those working with CB to take an unbiased approach, consider his personal beliefs and wants and needs, and also to consider any cultural or background information that could be helpful to a very successful treatment plan. I thank you so much for your time. Here is my contact information should you have any questions or need to contact me.